Hello. Hopefully the sound is working now. Hooray. Hello, everybody. Hello, the internet. Hello, Crips Against Cuts. As I was saying, fantastic mobilization. Absolutely super brilliant. You've done amazing work already, and you've only just started. It's wonderful, wonderful to see, especially for us. As someone described me, a veteran. Like we're feeling deja vu here. This is like, every wave of attacks on us that have come over the last couple of decades, definitely. But this is worse. This is absolutely worse. What the Labour Party is doing is worse than has ever happened before. I would certainly say, based on the latest figures from Professor Ben Geiger, who's a colleague of mine at King's College, that the actual cuts add up to around 9 billion, because the way that they've done the impact assessments is to pretend that taking people's money away will make them take up jobs and those wages will offset the cuts. So they'll be able to sort of list the impact as lower than it really is. So it is the biggest cut to social security in the history of social security. It is a wholesale attack on the concept that the state has a responsibility towards its citizens. It is shocking, and we need to attack it and oppose it in its totality. So first of all, just a collective across the board, not to be divided and ruled, not to let them get us to talk about work. This isn't about work. This is completely about cuts. There is no sincere effort in this to increase the employment or the pay of disabled people. This is entirely Treasury led to reduce spending. So I wanted to just cover a lot of what's going on around this, from our organisation and other organisations' views, and where Crips Against Cuts can become involved in existing work, and we can all coordinate together, reduce duplication of work, increase targeted focus, and be the most effective opposition to this possible. So we're a disabled people's organisation. That means we are in our case, completely staffed and run, controlled by disabled people, as opposed to a charity, which is often non-disabled people running it. We operate from the social model of disability and disability justice. And we've been going 40 years. It's actually our 40th birthday today. I'll say something quickly about that at the end. So we're now part of an organisation we helped form called the DDPO Forum England, Deaf and Disabled People's Organisations Forum of England. So that's other organisations like ours, controlled by disabled people, run by disabled people. In other words, the short version we call by and for organisations. DPO Forum England has formed a task group to deal with the Green Paper, and that's meeting weekly at the moment. So that's perhaps something, Crips Against Cuts, someone who's very interested in kind of policy and the sort of the political machinations of this might be interested in coming to that and representing Crips Against Cuts. We will be producing a toolkit for other organisations and individuals to respond. So that's an analysis and summary of the consultation in real words and not government spin, suggested consultation responses, and how you can message to your MP and the media. Just quickly to say about consultation, it's hugely below standards for a consultation. There's definitely challenges to be taken there on it. The most damaging proposals, we expect those to be put into a bill which is going to be launched in May. And I think Caroline will be talking more about how you fight a bill as it goes through the Commons. So that's going to be, another facet of this struggle. But for now, just wanted to cover some things that are happening. So you've got the DPO Forum England, which are reacting to this, and that's nationally. One or two MPs are holding roundtables and lobbying meetings who are sympathetic to our cause. So John McDonnell, who's, I guess, technically an independent MP at the moment, and Steve Darling, who's a Lib Dem, they're both holding those, and we've been to those. So perhaps we could, if you're not already involved with them, connect them with them, be invited to those roundtables. Amnesty International UK, Disabled People's Human Rights Network, also involved, and almost by coincidence, Amnesty International UK have been working on a long-term project around social and cultural rights, which is launching at the end of April and there's an event in Manchester in May, which would be really great to get people to come to. And this is just to try and get it like really quickly. Basically, the government has to obey certain human rights legislation when they bring in new laws, but they've ignored obeying social and cultural rights. And social and cultural rights cover social security. So they cover all this stuff that's happening to us. So this big piece of work is about forcing the government to actually start doing the full proper assessment of how changes to social security need to happen in respect of human rights law, because under human rights, there is a right to an adequate standard of living through social security. So adequate social security is a right. So there's another thing to think about in this fight. We're not fighting for like a bit of charity or a choice or a handout. This is our rights, our rights. People fought and died for these. We are not giving these up. So that's another great thing that's happening. And Amnesty got, big reputation, big sort of media knowledge. That's really helpful. They're involved. There's a thing called the Disability Benefits Consortium, which is mostly the big kind of corporate charities with one or two DPOs sort of helping inform them of actually what disabled people want. They're involved in this, and our message to them is that they absolutely have to oppose this in its totality. No kind of letting the government divide and rule and sort of going, well, this measure's okay and that measure. It doesn't matter if like one or two measures in it are kind of okay, because the bigger surrounding attack is so overwhelming that any tiny improvement in a regulation here or there is going to be wiped out by the much bigger assault that is happening. So we just want to make sure that they're not going to, start to moderate their opposition. At the moment, they've been pretty good. There's also obviously the assisted dying bill is moving through the Commons. So not dead yet, are kind of leading on that. So it's worth to, be on their mailing list. Obviously, we risk a future where people are so impoverished that, as we've seen in other parts of the world, assisted dying starts to expand, and they say, well, you've not got social care, you're not getting any benefit payments. Would you consider dying? And that is the possible future that we could be looking at in 5 years from now. So the fact these all things are happening together also seems like they're attempting to overwhelm us. So it's important, again, to look at that big picture collective approach. There's also a bill passing through Parliament which has extra powers for the DWP to spy on our bank accounts, also to give DWP arrest powers and powers to search your house. So that's also being fought, and that's through a coalition formed by Big Brother Watch. So I'd also say if there's someone that's very interested in that, connect you with that, and you can be part of the coalition with Big Brother Watch that's fighting that with other organisations, us, and a load of others as well. The United Nations Special Rapporteur on the Convention on the Rights of Disabled People is in the picture, and I think they're being asked to put out a statement about this. And I should say that the UK Deaf and Disabled People's Convention on the Rights of Disabled People Monitoring Coalition, which is a bit of a long mouthful. So they help convene the meetings with John McDonnell. I think the next one is actually on Monday of this week. So it's worth maybe someone from Crips Against Cuts could come to that. That's attempting to lobby the MPs. So let me think, what have I got? Also the unions. So some of the unions still fund the Labour Party quite a lot of money. So I do think there's a pressure point there on unions to say, end your funding of Labour until this is dropped. Certainly the TUC Disabled Workers Committee are heavily involved. So if you are in a union, make sure that you get onto the main list of the Disabled Workers Committee, aware of what they're doing, but also put pressure on your union to stop giving money to a party that has attacked disabled people in this unspeakable way. And I sort of finally just on that is that I think the attitudes that we've seen from ministers in the media and throughout the Green Paper are disablist. Quite apart from like they're using like bad language and terrible stuff, but it's just disablism. And just, to the word actually vulnerable. No one is vulnerable intrinsically, it's the context they're in that makes them vulnerable. So I would say disabled people are not vulnerable. We are under attack. They are attacking us instead of giving us and supporting our rights. So I think that's also important to kind of stress our dignity and our pride and our defiance and our rights. So let me think. Also, yeah, Human Rights Watch, we've been doing work with Human Rights Watch. I'll be talking to them next week. They've also got good reach into media and things like that. So again, loads of things starting to come together to oppose this. The level of outrage is huge. No one's alone here. It's fantastic. We know the Labour Party is genuinely shocked by the amount of opposition and unrest within its own ranks. As to the kind of the sort of three things I think you could do right now, I think the first thing is do what you're doing. You're doing brilliant work. But that, movement building, leveraging power on social media, communicating, getting your message out there, getting that human face of it out there, just do that. Get more people involved. There are potentially 16 million or so disabled people in this country. A movement of even a third of that would be the biggest social movement in history of this country. Let's aim for it. Let's go for it. The second thing is unfortunately a really sort of tedious, boring thing, which is we've now had enough responses from MPs to letters to know that they're just copy and pasting standard replies. It's pretty well much not going to produce much change or impact. So we're asking that people make appointments for face-to-face meetings with their MPs. Now, that's not the most fun thing in the world. So the good advice there is to try and get a couple of friends to that meeting. That also means genuinely that it's a kind of it's more rounded discussion, because you might forget some things, your friend might forget some things, but you can remind each other, that kind of stuff. And let them see the human face. Let them see, the outrage. Let them see the anger. Let them see how it's going to affect you and your loved ones. We have to leverage the human factor here against MPs who have got a lot of pressure on them from their leadership to do what they're told. We know 100 MPs roughly, their entire job relies on patronage of Starmer. They'll be very difficult to shift, but if we can strip the others away, worth doing. I know it's not fun. I know it's not something to look forward to, but in the next 3-4 months, everyone can get face to face with their MP and let them know that, how bad these things are going to affect you, and also how difficult that MP's life is going to be if they support this. Then please do that. That will have an effect and start to strip away the support and build the rebellion that's happening within the Labour Party. We can't rely on that. We have to try and stoke it as much as possible. Third thing, of course, is the boring, horrible consultation. But the deadline of that is the end of June. They may have to extend that because they have not produced accessible versions, shockingly. Their deadline to produce them is April the 7th. If they don't, they will have to extend the larger deadline. But there will be good guides on how to fill that in that will come out over time. I would not worry about the consultation right now. You've got all of May and June. Right now, April, let's focus on street protest, demonstration, building the movement, publicity, social media, and getting MPs in front of us and letting them know exactly how we feel about this. And, wider, connecting these different movements, these different meetings, these lobbying groups, these pressure groups. It's all happening. It's all happening very fast. I don't think I have had a day off for about 4 weeks now. But, this is a really crucial moment. The next few months, if we can maximize our impact now, then we will have hopefully changed some of this, if not all of it, instead of having to fight like every single step of the way throughout the rest of this year. So I know it's a kind of a lot to ask of everybody, but there is a real opportunity to cause this government problems. I don't think it'd be wrong to be talking about we're calling for the resignation of Rachel Reeves, for Liz Kendall, for Keir Starmer, talking about this being a one-term party now. And also, by the way, there will be legal challenges forthcoming around this. That's already happening. I know there are 3 large, well-respected legal organisations who are already in talks with our organisations about bringing legal challenges. More of that will emerge. So really on every front, opposition is building and coordinating against this. So I think I want to give also that message of hope and defiance. They probably thought they could get away with this. They probably thought we were an easy target. I think they're about to be really surprised. And, you know, we've been through this over the years. We've lost some people. Great friend I work with, Nick Dilworth, is no longer with us. Many others. But I just want to sort of, makes me emotional. But I think they're going to learn that they have fucked with the wrong Crips. Thank you.